So I want to introduce you to one of our favourite tools at Tilt, which is the constructive rant. We use it as part of reflection sessions or retrospectives with teams or groups. It can be a great way to kickstart a project. It can also be something we use one-to-one with leaders that we're supporting, particularly if there are individuals who have had a negative experience of working in agile or lean ways. It's also really useful if you want to uncover opportunities to get people on board with new ways of working. It's a really, really powerful tool, and one that we even use with each other sometimes. The key steps are here. It's all about, firstly, creating a smaller, safer environment to have this constructive rant. The smaller the group, the better. Step 2 is all about holding space for an uninterrupted rant. This is a focus on making sure that the time each individual has to rant, they're confident they're not going to be interrupted, is theirs to use how they want. And by holding that space and not jumping in, it also enables them to think of more things to say and have the confidence that they have the space that they need to share. The third step in the constructive rant is around sharing alternatives that can move you forward now. So this is all about what's wanted instead, what the individual would like to happen. Finally, the fourth step is around committing to a small thing that you'll try together. So those are the 4 principles of a constructive rant. And now I'm going to show you what this might look like in real life. Here is an example of a team that did a constructive rant. This is the Amnesty Communications team, Amnesty International UK. Here's how they took that constructive rant tool and applied it to a reflection session. As a team, they were experiencing lots of change and lots of uncertainty and some worry. So what they did was, as part of a regular reflection session that they run at the end of each chunk of work, they used this constructive rant. How they did it was they split into breakout groups online of 2 people. The first person spoke for around 3 minutes around whatever had been challenging, annoying, or hard lately. While that first person was speaking, the other one was strictly not interrupting and just leaving that space. Silence was okay. They then swapped over, and the second person had 3 minutes to rant on whatever was challenging, annoying, or hard lately for them. Then they swapped back, and the first person had 3 minutes to speak around answering the question, so what is it that you want to happen? As they were doing that, the second person, who was listening and not interrupting, was writing down the top thing or the most important thing that person 1 shared. And then they swapped over again. Finally, those teams of 2 were brought back from their breakout groups and into the wider group, where all of those potential solutions they'd come up with, the answers to the question, what would you like to happen, were themed. The team then voted on which theme they'd like to take forward and identified a specific action that they would take as a team to alleviate that to achieve that what they'd like to happen next. So that's an example of the constructive rant in action. Finally, here are some reflections from a group that recently used the constructive rant tool. They were thinking specifically around how you might use the constructive rant if you are working with a leader or a group of leaders who are not that on board with agile ways of working, and you'd like to get them excited about it, or at least interested in it. You can see that the team really felt that, having tried the constructive rant, it was a great way to show agile principles in action. For example, it was really outcome focused. It took a coaching approach with that assumption that the person ranting was the right person to come up with solutions. They found that the time boxing is really useful, so having a specific amount of time for each section of the rant was a really great way to ensure that individual people didn't take up more time than others. And they actually found that within that, what feels like quite a short amount of time, they got quite a lot done. It was a great way of bringing different perspectives on the same or similar issues. They also reflected that there were some key times that could be particularly useful, for example, at the beginning of working together, then at strategic points. It can also be a great thing to do when there's conflict in a group, or you can see that there's a particular challenge that a group are struggling with. We also had a conversation around who should be in the room. So we felt it could be useful to have someone who didn't know much, to be doing a constructive rant with someone who didn't know too much about what was going on. It can also be useful to have bring different people who are experiencing the same challenge to that constructive rant. Finally, somebody pointed out that it is a really great way to de-escalate feelings by giving a legitimate space for those more challenging feelings, those feelings of discontent to be shared. It's really important to give them, I'm just going to start again, ignore that bit. Finally, we also reflected that the constructive rant felt like it de-escalated feelings by giving a legitimate place for those rants, that discontent to be shared. It enabled the individuals to move through that in order to then create solutions.